Good day everyone, thank you for coming to the channel. Today I wanted to talk about Hangul. I'm Korean by blood, but I was raised in Japan, so my first language is Japanese. Thankfully, both Korean and Japanese is a very similar language. And I mean the academics, currently Korean is, supposedly an isolated language, but for a long time it was taken as an alternate language. As a person who speaks both Korean and Japanese fluently, as well as enough Mandarin, and well tuned in Far East Asia history, I can see that these three cultures have so many similarities with words, grammar, and culture. And Korean writing system provides an angle that connects both Mandarin and Japanese together. So I wanted to kind of reiterate those angles, and hopefully this could help you understand why Korean is the easiest writing system in the world. So I want to get that clear first of all. Korean grammar is very difficult, but Korean writing is the easiest writing in the world. And that is because the fourth king of the recent Joseon, Sejong Daewang, he created the writing system based off of the balance of the world. Korean culture, through the ancient time, we always talked about sky, land, and a person. So Chun, Ji, In. When you think about it, we live in a 3D world, X, Y, Z, like low, medium, high. I mean, everything in this world is about three. If you look at the Squid Game, the business card, that Gongyu shares, what do you see? You see the circle, which is the infinite creator, the father. And you see the box. What is the box? It's a finite nurturer, the mother. And when these two meet, what do you have? You have a person, which is triangle. So I'm going to take another opportunity to delve more into that when I talk about Kyore and how this relates to a lot of different things in the world. But that's where the three is from. And King Sejong took this idea of the three and he created all the vowels. And if you look at the K-pop Demon Hunters, the concert scene when Rumi is doing the golden performance, and you see the 일, 월, 오봉도. 일, 월, and 일 is the sun, 월 is the moon, and the 5 summits. And this is exactly the 7. He used this to create all the consonances. So out of the 7, it's actually the 5. Now, the days of the week in Korean is a perfect example of this. So in English too, it's actually the same idea, but the words are kind of not the same. So the first day of the week is actually Sunday. A lot of people think it's Monday. No, it's Sunday. So what is Sunday? Like I said, it's the day of the sun in English, right? So it's a Sunday, so day reference to the sun. Then what's Monday? Monday is actually the moon day. So it's a day reference to the moon. See, that's why the first is sun and the moon. And in Korean, we say 일요일, which is the sun, 월요일, 월, that's the moon. Then you have the 2 out. Then what do you have? Rest, the 5. What are these? These are the 5 elements that are found on earth today. And it goes 화요일, which is a fire, 수요일, which is the water, 목요일, which is a tree, 금요일, which is a metal, and 토요일, which is a soil. So supposedly King Sejong, during his time, he did autopsy. And one may say like, what's wrong? What's so special about that? I mean, during his time, running an autopsy on a dead body is a big no-no. In this new Confucianism theory, I mean, you're touching a dead body. That's like disrespecting the dead. A king disrespecting a dead? Oh my God! Like, dude, if people found out, he would have been like just thrown out immediately. But he still supposedly did this. It's in the record books. And in doing so, he wanted to see how the human bodies are made and how the sounds are made in the body. So for me growing up, like I said, my first language is Japanese. I grew up speaking Japanese, so I still speak it, read and write it too. But my mom told me as I was growing up, imagine how the sound travels in your body. How the sound moves in your body is exactly how the writing is made. And you know what? She was so damn right. And those sound movements are related with the 5 elements of earth. So let me explain. Fire. Okay, So if you take your head, right? If you take your head, what is something that moves like a fire? So that something that moves like a fire in your head is your tongue. And the first word of the fire sound is N as in Nancy. And if you look at the shape of the N, what you have first is a horizontal from right to left and then up. And the horizontal is your tongue. And then up is your tongue touching your top palate. So if you make the sound of like any kind of N word, Nancy, whatever, you will know that the tongue has to touch the top. If it doesn't touch the top, you will not make N. So as you can see on the picture I made, N shape is merely the movement of sound in your body, or in your head in this case. And it's going to be adding one more stroke to it to get to the next word. And the next one is D as in dog. And you will see when you try to make any kind of duh sound, like D sound, again, the tongue has to touch the top. Then one more from that extension is T sound, t, t. And it's just one more stroke in the middle. Yeah, it's very simple. It's exactly how the sounds are made in our body. And then one more for the fire sound is the L. And if you see the L sound, it has the base of an N and it just rolls upward. And ultimately, the idea is that the tongue has to still touch your top palate. So that's why L is part of the fire sound. So that's Tuesday, the fire sound. So water day, which is Wednesday, water day, 수요일. So what is water? So if you take human head again, what is like water or what is related to water, right? Well, in acupuncture or in the Oriental medicine, a person who's dead will have a dry throat. A live person will always have a wet throat, which is exactly why your lung has to be wet, which is why smoking is bad for you, regardless of tobacco or nicotine or any of that. So if you look at it, what stays wet? Your throat. So what is the shape of your throat? It's round. So in the modern Korean, it's a circular shape. And that's a ong sound, ong. And this is something so funny, when I talk to Vietnamese people, like if you look at the last name Nguyen, it starts with NG. And seriously, put your hand on your heart and tell me you knew how to pronounce that from day one. I didn't get that pronunciation. It was like Nguyen, but no, that NG is the phonetic pronunciation of what it is in a dictionary. If you look at the English dictionary, like on the bottom of it, it has a phonetic pronunciation. And if that phonetic pronunciation is a completely separate sound system. And maybe I should have said this in the beginning, but that's what Korean is. Korean is a phonetic writing sound system. So that's why it's so damn easy. So if you look at it here, see ng, ung. That ung sound in Korean is a circular sound. That's how we write it. It's a circular shape. And if it goes on the bottom, it has the ng ending. And when it goes on the top, it becomes like a voiceless o, like young. The second one is actually, like I said, one more stroke. That's how it's supposed to be. But the second one, we don't use anymore in our language. So it kind of died out. And then the third one is h, h, h. So, going back, say or like, win, like, like a winner, like win, like W-I-N. See, that's a circular sound. And when you make that sound, you'll see the sound is coming from way bottom of your throat. And same thing for H, like huh, huh. Yeah, it's coming from your throat. That's why these two sounds are the water sounds. And after Wednesday, you have Thursday. And Thursday is a tree sound. And a tree represents the root of the tree. And this is the G and a K and a G. And my last name is Kim. That is English pronunciation. I mean, a lot of Asians did this. Lee is not an Asian last name. A lot of people think it's Asian. No, Lee is a white last name. I mean, look at General Lee from the Civil War in the South. Yeah, Lee is a white last name. But when Asians came, they just took on a sound that's most relatable to the white people so that they could go ahead and, just assimilate better. Like the park in Korea, like Channel Park. Yeah, no, it's not park, it's pop with a B. But again, like look at Sari Park, right? The golfer, LPGA, she's on the Hall of Fame now. Yeah, her last name is written P-A-K. So this shows the problem of romanticizing the sound because English alphabet just cannot encompass all the pronunciations. And also it shows the cultural problem of where we're living in a Western world today that the Asians have to bend over to fit into the Western ways of doing things. So going back, the tree sound is a g. Like my pronunciation Kim in Korean is that it's not Kim, it's Kim. So I guess it's like take the word G, right, in English. Even a G is a really problematic sound because you have two different sounds. So if you look at geometry, right, see geometry, that G is pronounced more like a J, right? Now, when you look at a word like girl, that G right there is not pronounced like geometry. It's a different G. And this G in a girl is exactly how Kim was supposed to be pronounced. That's why in Korea we say Kim. That's my last name. 44% of Koreans are Kims. And it means gold. So if you make the pronunciation of a G like Kim, see, it starts from the root and it goes vertically up. And then this one goes horizontal after. It's just the vertical up from the root tooth, and then it's horizontal on your top palate. That's why it's written that way. And interestingly, the k, like in a Kim, it's just one more stroke from that. So what does it say? It says that the girl sound, like a G in a girl, with the Kim in a Kimberly, those two sounds are both same sound. They're both tree sound. So it shows why girl pronunciation in Korean changes the k pronunciation in English too. And then you have the g, which is double K, like 깍두기. That's the radish kimchi. Yeah, 깍두기, 깍. Again, it's coming from there. So that's why it's the tree sound. And then you have the metal sound, the Friday. What's a metal sound? It's the teeth. In Korean shamanism, we say that if you dream and you lose your teeth, then someone really dear to you just died. And yes, it's scientifically proven too. The teeth is the strongest bone in our body. And just an interesting side note, we're the only beings on earth that actually lose our teeth and then grow it back. No other animals do this except human beings. We don't know why. I don't know why too, but I just wanted to say. So what's the metal sound? The metal sound is like looking at your like a face frontal, and then you see a teeth, and that's the shape. That's why it's a S sound, J sound, and ch sound. So, ch. So if you look at the writing, the S shape, yeah, that's representing the two teeth in the front. And then, like I said, one more stroke and one more stroke, right? So one more stroke, you draw that horizontal line on top. What do you get? You get J. J, J, J. And then, see, when you say the snake, snake, see? The sound travels in front of your teeth. It has to. Otherwise, you're not going to pronounce that snake properly. Same thing for J, like July, June, whatever. It's the frontal teeth. And then the third one is one more dot on top. And that's the ch sound, ch, like China, ch, ch. See, ch, ch. It travels with the front teeth. So the metal sound is a frontal view of the human face. And then lastly, Saturday. And the Saturday is a soil sound. So what's a soil sound? You take a frontal view of your face, and then the first one is an M, m. And basically, the M is just your lips being connected to each other, top to bottom. And that writing is M. So every time you say Mickey D M, like Mary, see M, the lips gotta touch. If it doesn't touch, it doesn't make a pronunciation. And then the extension of that, the next one is B. Boy, barbarian, Yes, your lips gotta touch. Otherwise, you're not pronouncing that. And then the last one is P. Papa John's, Papa Don, whatever. You try it. Yeah, without touching your lips, you're not making this sound. So I want to bring out the Park last name here again because I think it's interesting. So as I have mentioned, in Korean, it's actually Pak with a B sound. And in English, it's Park with a P sound. And as you can see, B and a P, they're both same mouth sound. So it's no wonder why it's changing between those two. And also when you can see these kind of sound changes that extend to other languages. So for example, in Korean, a beautiful person is miin, miin, so with the M. And in Japanese is bijin, bijin. So the M sound changes to a B sound, and the O sound changes to a J sound. So now the first one, M to B, you can see that. But why O to J? Well, it's because both Japanese and Korean are Altai language. There's a sound change rule that I have seen where it shows that when the sounds change to a different category, it only changes within these five sounds. So, I'd like to cover that later in a separate video. So these five elements are the basics of how King Sejong created the Korean consonances. So if you see how many sound combinations are in Korean, according to ChatGPT, it's about 11,172. And that's with the 24 characters that we have currently. But in total, Korean is actually 28 characters. Four have been dropped off because of the Japanese colonial history. So if we revitalize them and start using them again, it would be about 15,000 sound combinations that Korean would be able to make. And if you compare that to other Far East Asian languages like Chinese and Japanese, Japanese makes about 110 sounds, and Chinese or Mandarin makes about 400, and then 1200 with the four up and downs. In Japanese, they have their own English as well that only Japanese people can understand. So, for example, basket, basket. This one's not that hard. What do you think it is? A lot of people say basket, right? Actually, wrong. It's not. It's basketball. So, basket, basket, that means basketball, short for basketball. Now, this one, I don't think anyone will be able to get. And they have a lot of words like this. So here, pasokon, pasokon. Well, please pause this video right now and see if you can guess what that is. It means personal computer. So wow, and and that's because their sound system again, they're limited. I mean, the way I see Korean, like a lot of people say too, Korean is like Lego, like you just put it together. But Japanese is like Lego pieces that have already been put together. And when I used to play Final Fantasy X online, I used to play with the Japanese players, but I didn't know how to type Japanese. But instead, I knew how to type Romaji, which is Romanji, Roman writing. So it's like romanticizing Japanese characters in order to communicate. So Japanese writing system cannot encompass the pronunciations. So that's why they have their own English like pasokon. And in extension, Romaji was created because Japanese cannot make all the sounds. And in mainland China, they have a similar situation with simplified Chinese. So, simplified Chinese was really pushed out in Mao's reign. And there was a guy named Lu Xun. And he said if China doesn't destroy the writings, writing will destroy China. And I think it's true. So, one example I use often is Qingdao. Well, it's spelled with a Q, so white people pronounce it as Qingdao. But, the Chinese or Asians who know the city name, they'll pronounce it as Qingdao. And then you also have a beer company, Qingdao Beer, that's spelled with TS. So I think, this one word is a great example that just shows the limitation of romanticizing Mandarin characters and pronunciations, just like Japanese. And in doing so, basically, China, they made their own separate sound system for their Mandarin writings using English alphabets. And that's the Pinyin, Pyongyang. And, I do know how to type in Chinese because my wife is a mainlander. And, before the days of algorithm and autocomplete, it was really annoying. because you had to like so first you had to type the alphabet, the English alphabet, like let's say woman, like we are, like we. Then you type up W-O, and then it gives you the complete word, and you just or like other selection of sounds that's possible from the W-O pinging rule writing. Then you select the one that you want to use. So in the beginning days of WeChat, it wasn't that easy to type in Mandarin because there was no autocomplete, there was no algorithm to help you autocomplete, and there is no list of like most commonly used phrases as people have today. So Chinese and Japanese both have romanticized writing system in addition to their national writing system. And as a result, in Japan, the literacy rate is around 70% among the 10s and 20s and 30s. So around 30% of people, the youngsters, cannot read properly. And I think it's because also like in Japanese kanji or hanja or hanzi, like they have multiple pronunciations. For example, the writing of a mountain is pronounced as san, which is same in Korean and Chinese, but you also pronounce it as yama. So the question is big, like when are you supposed to pronounce it as san and when are you supposed to pronounce it as yama? Like there are these like complicated rules about it. So yeah, that makes it more complicated, makes it more difficult. And in comparison, if you look at China, I grew up learning the traditional writing. And one thing like when I look at simplified writing, I can tell how that came about. Like for example, like Guang, like Guangdong to Guang or Guangzhou, and it's missing the yellow writing inside. It's just a roof on top. So people like me who know the traditional writing, like we can tell how it became simplified. But those who only learn the simplified can't really tell why simplified is written the way it is. And they can't read the traditional writing as well, which I find just really unfortunate. In conclusion, Sejong Daewang stated in his book, Hunmin정은, that a smart person will be able to learn within half a day, and even the dumbest of the person can learn everything in about 2 weeks. And I think what's going on in Korea right now is a perfect proof of that. When you have all these foreigners who go to Korea and speak so much better Korean than these ABKs in the States. Just total Twinkies. Yellow on the outside and white on the inside. So it goes to show you that the Korean is the easiest writing system in the world because it encompasses the law of nature and universe. And I think in the future, Earth would be using one writing system. And I think it's going to be Korean. Okay, I think I talked too much, so it's time for me to shut up now. But if you have any questions, please let me know. Thank you very much and have a wonderful day.